Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will recap for you a crime, drama, horror film from 2019 titled I See You. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Two teenagers, Alec and Mindy, are self-described frogs or phroggers, people who infiltrate and squat inside occupied homes. Aptly named because they frequently jump from pad to pad, this is Alec's first experience frogging, while Mindy is a seasoned veteran in the art. After doing their homework on several possible destinations, they've decided on the Harper family's suburban home. The family consists of Greg Harper, a police detective, his wife Jackie, a therapist, and their teenage son, Connor. Alec and Mindy wait for the last occupant to leave for the day, and they slip into the house by beating the garage door before it closes. Mindy, who is filming a documentary, describes the general concept of frogging to the camera while Alec explores the rest of the house. Mindy insists on drawing no attention to themselves, for example eating just enough food to stay nourished while avoiding detection. However, Alec plays tricks on the family such as removing photos from their frames, repeatedly turning on televisions, and maxing out the audio volume. The odd collection of events bewilders the Harpers, causing them to wonder if a paranormal presence may be haunting their home. As time goes on, however, Alec starts having a little too much fun and his pranks become increasingly more aggressive. First, he sneaks up while Greg is looking through a closet, pushing him from behind and locking him in with a lacrosse stick. Then, while Greg is sleeping, Alec stands over the bed and urinates on him, making Greg believe that he had an accident in his sleep. To add to the tension, Connor and Greg remain upset with Jackie, having recently learned of her extramarital affair. Despite Jackie's best efforts, Connor gives his mother the silent treatment, or when he does speak it's to lash out at her, and when a phone conversation about their marriage boils over, Greg throws his phone through a window in frustration. The following day, a repairman arrives to replace the broken window and he hears Alec and Mindy talking inside. Since the family isn't home and the repairman isn't aware that she doesn't live there, Alec convinces Mindy to let the worker in. Soon after, Jackie returns home and upon hearing someone upstairs, she is startled to discover someone is in the house. Her confusion is only heightened on the way out the front door, where the repairman reports it was her daughter that let him in. Later, after finding the silverware drawer emptied, Jackie reports the incident to the police, though it was yet another trick by Alec who had hidden it. Elsewhere, Lieutenant Mariah Davis assigns Greg the missing person cases of two boys, Michael King and Justin Whittier. Justin, a 12-year-old boy, and the most recent abductee, was flung from his bike while riding home through the woods, and he hasn't been seen or heard from ever since. Greg is joined on the scene by his longtime partner, Ray, where Justin's mountain bike was found, along with the tripwire presumably used to abruptly stop him. Most notable amongst the evidence though is a green pocket knife, matching the weapon used previously in a high-profile case. Several years ago, Greg and his partner apprehended a man named Cole Turner for the abduction and murder of 6 other boys. And while they are confident the pocket knife is merely a copycat of the Turner case, Lieutenant Davis worries his zealous defense attorney will push to reopen the investigation. At her request, the detectives visit Tommy Braun, one of Turner's 2 surviving victims. Tommy, who stays concealed due to a badly disfigured face, remains traumatized by the previous events, and his response when addressed by the detectives is a mix of incoherent whimpering and screaming. Back at the station, Greg replays the tape of their original interview, during which Tommy admits that his facial disfigurement is a result of self-mutilation, a response to being tortured in what he refers to as the little house in the trees. According to Tommy, it is a magic structure with the ability to disappear, which means that Greg will never identify the perpetrator. The next morning, Jackie's illicit lover, Todd, shows up at the house to profess his love. Jackie asks him to leave, saying she no longer wants to see him, but before he can leave, Alec, who is observing from the roof above, takes Jackie's favorite sunflower mug and lets it fall and shatter on Todd's head. Jackie, believing that the mug was thrown by Connor, takes Todd into the basement to treat the wound and apply an ice pack, then leaves him there alone while she drives Connor to school. Meanwhile, after seeing that Alec had dropped the mug, Mindy decides it's time to move on. She goes to the basement to retrieve the backpack she had previously hidden, but she is forced to hide after finding Todd already there. In the meantime, Greg returns home unexpectedly and discovers Todd in the basement, kneeling in front of a cupboard and looking for another rag to cover his bleeding head. With Mindy watching from her hiding spot, Greg retrieves a nearby baseball bat and strikes Todd in the back of the head, leaving him dead on the basement floor. While Greg leaves the area to hide the bloody weapon, Mindy quickly grabs her backpack and prepares to leave, but she again is forced into hiding when Jackie returns to the basement and discovers Todd's body. Unaware of Greg's involvement and still under the impression that Connor had thrown the mug, Jackie goes to Greg and convinces him to help bury Todd's body in the woods, for fear that their son will be held responsible. While his parents are out, Connor finds the missing silverware inside the washing machine, then later, receives an anonymous message asking if he knows what phrogging is. Connor searches the term online, and as he views the disturbing videos depicting covert acts of home invasion, Alec puts on a frog mask and subdues him from behind. While he is tying Connor up, Mindy walks in and confronts Alec. She expresses her disdain for Alec's actions, which have become increasingly more aggressive, and after threatening to notify law enforcement, the argument escalates to a physical confrontation, which ends with Mindy tumbling down the stairs and hitting her head. The now unconscious Mindy is loaded into the back of Greg's vehicle, which Alec attempts to drive away, but the ignition won't start and Greg and Jackie return home from burying Todd, forcing Alec out of the car to avoid being seen. Inside the house, Jackie and Greg find Connor in the bathtub, bound and gagged, with a green pocket knife stabbed into the bar of soap beside him. Before Jackie departs with Connor to the hospital, Greg vows to find the person responsible for assaulting their son. Alec, who is still hiding in the garage, can only stand by and watch in horror as Greg gets into his vehicle and drives away with Mindy still unconscious in the back. Without alerting Greg, Mindy quietly wakes up in the back seat. There, she finds the jersey Justin Whittier was wearing on the day of his disappearance, along with other evidence suggesting Greg has been the person responsible for abducting and killing young boys. Mindy takes the first opportunity when Greg stops the car to flee into the nearby woods, dial 911, and report the suspected killer. Unfortunately, Mindy doesn't know where she is, and the call, which is routed to Ray, loses connection before her location can be traced through the cell signal. Mindy walks a little further into the woods and discovers a hidden trailer where Michael King and Justin Whittier are being held captive. The boys tell her that Greg is outside digging a hole in which they will be buried, but when Mindy attempts to free them, Greg appears from behind and covers her face with a plastic bag. Greg drags Mindy's still alive but unconscious body to his car and discovers her video recorder while loading her in. Greg views the footage depicting the phrogging teens inside his house, at which point he heads home to find her accomplice, taking Mindy along with him. Upon their arrival, Greg drags Mindy to the living room. There, he forces her to stand up, then proceeds to shoot her point blank with his service pistol. He removes a second weapon from his pocket and shoots 2 holes in the wall behind him before wiping the revolver clean and placing it in Mindy's hand, making the scene appear as if he acted in self-defense. Meanwhile, Alec, who heard the shots from the garage, retrieves an axe from the wall and enters the house cautiously, where he discovers Mindy's dead body on the floor. While Greg is upstairs, hunting for Alex with his gun drawn, the latter lures him back down by blaring music on the record player. Greg approaches cautiously to shut the music off, and Alec waits patiently for the perfect time to ambush him with the axe. Despite Alec's patience, Greg avoids the axe and pries it away, leading to a physical struggle during which Alec's mask is removed, and Greg eventually gains the advantage, finally knocking Alec unconscious with a fire poker. Planning to also frame Alec, Greg goes to the kitchen and stabs himself in the shoulder with a chef's knife, but after wiping it clean and turning back towards the living room, he finds Alec aiming the revolver back at him. Alec tells Greg that he knows what he is, and after ignoring both Greg's threats and his subsequent pleas for mercy, Alec steps forward and fires a fatal shot at Greg, just as the police are arriving. Ray is the first officer to enter the house, and after seeing Greg's dead body on the floor and Alec tearfully standing by holding a gun, he shoots Alec in the shoulder, which knocks him to the ground. Critically wounded, yet still alive, Alec lifts his head and says Ray's name, leaving the detective staring in astonishment. As Tommy Braun's friend and the second of 2 survivors, Alec orchestrated the phrogging scheme to take revenge on the monster who tortured him and Tommy as children. While the police free the 2 boys being held captive in the hidden trailer, Ray finds the evidence in the back of Greg's vehicle which proves that his partner had been the perpetrator all along. Jackie, having just returned home from the hospital with Connor, sees the emergency vehicles and walks solemnly past Ray, while eyeing the evidence in the rear of Greg's SUV. As Alec is wheeled out of the house to the ambulance, he recalls himself and Tommy as young boys walking along the railroad track. The man standing in front of them is revealed to be Greg, who hands young Alec a green pocket knife. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to see more.